Have you ever seen Jurassic Park? It is probably because of this movie that people have come to associate dinosaurs with the Jurassic Period. Hello everyone. There were many interesting events during the Jurassic Period that you may not have imagined. Welcome to our channel. Today, we would like to talk about the Jurassic Period. Let's get right to it. Dinosaurs step up to the throne. What is the typical image that people unfamiliar with paleontology have of the Jurassic Period? Dinosaurs of all sizes chasing each other in jungles that look like today's tropical regions. The biggest of them all is, of course, the Tyrannosaurus. The Tyrannosaurus is the strongest and can eat up any living creature flat. Except for pterodactyls, however, which can fly. Everywhere on land, from the North Pole to the South Pole, is covered with jungle. Everywhere is warm, and winter is non-existent. You all agree, don't you? Scientists placed the Jurassic between the Triassic and Cretaceous periods. It began about 201 million years ago and lasted for 56 million years until 145 million years ago. The Jurassic began with the great extinction of living things. But it is not as great as the famous Cretaceous and Paleogene extinctions that killed off the dinosaurs, or the Permian mass extinction involving even the normally nonchalant insects. Even so, many species fell victim. In the Triassic-Jurassic extinction, for example, the lamprey-like fish called conodonts, which at the time accounted for about 20% of marine life, disappeared. On land, the predatory reptile, the Crurotarsi, a distant relative of the dinosaurs that you may know, suffered a major blow. The cause of the extinction is unknown, but one thing we do know is that it was a rapid extinction that lasted less than 10,000 years. And most importantly, and interestingly for us, it provided the environment for the dinosaurs to then thrive. It may seem surprising, but we know that the earliest dinosaurs had already appeared in what is now South America during the Triassic period. At that time, this continent, like the others, was part of a single supercontinent called Pangaea. One of the early dinosaurs well known to researchers is Styracosaurus. It was a short but long, sideways bipedal carnivore. Another interesting creature is Eoraptor, a small, also bipedal reptile. Some paleontologists believed it is the closest to the common ancestor of all dinosaurs. Eoraptor's superior speed and adaptability allowed it to spread easily across the entire Pangaea continent. This is how the ancestors of the dinosaurs were able to survive the extinction of the late Triassic period with little impact. Moreover, the extinction rather benefited the dinosaurs, as mammals flourished millions of years after the asteroid impact that changed the fate of the dinosaurs. Thus, it makes perfect sense to associate the Jurassic period with dinosaurs. Dinosaurs became the rulers of the land at this very time, evolving from small carnivores into the ferocious lizards for which large quantities of fossils are known. The Earth when there were dinosaurs. Here is another interesting fact. The most famous and best studied of all dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus, did not yet exist during the Jurassic period. The ones that were around at that time were the giant Diplodocus, Brachiosaurus, and Apatosaurus, which are classified as sauropoda. Incidentally, although their fearsome appearance and huge bodies are hard to imagine, they were mild-mannered animals that fed on plants. However, it is not wise for humans to stand in front of them and wander around their feet just because they are docile. The only animals that could compete with such powerful herbivores, of course, carnivores that were equally large, dexterous, and agile. For example, the famous Allosaurus and Ceratosaurus. A fight between a huge carnivore and a herbivore must have been very powerful. The stage for these giant fights was the plains and endless forests. Although there was no angiosperm yet, the modern pine and cypress-like plants were already in existence. Their rivals were the ginkgo and cycad. Cycads are now found mainly only in the tropics, and only one species of ginkgo remains. But during the Jurassic period, there was a much greater diversity of species growing all over the world than there is today. Maps showing the geography of the Jurassic differ greatly from what we know today. The continent of Pangaea still existed in the first half of the Jurassic, but it gradually broke up. About 175 million years ago, it completely split into the continents of Laurasia and Gondwana. From there, it still took a long time before the continents we are familiar with were formed. The seas surrounding the disparate continents were also teeming with life. The mollusks we know so well, similar to oysters and snails, reproduced over a wide area, and coral reefs, similar to those of today, also appeared. In the coral forests, supergiant fish, such as Leadsichthys, swam. Their size ranged from a whopping 10 to 30 meters. The numbers vary slightly depending on the scientist, but in any case, they are the largest bony fishes in the history of the Earth. However, even with their size, it was extremely difficult for them to defend themselves against marine predators such as Metriorhynchus and Plesiosaurus. These aggressive reptiles stalked the slow-moving giant fish, gnawing on its scales and biting its flesh. Megalnosaurus, one of the largest Jurassic marine reptiles, is a member of this plesiosaurs family. And the reigning king of the sea at that time was undoubtedly Plesiosaurus. You have probably seen this image somewhere, haven't you? The long neck is a distinctive feature of this sea animal. It may have needed a long neck so that it did not have to surface every time it needed to catch its breath. As it swims, it sticks its head out and breathes in, and then swims slowly again. I bet that must have been very convenient. Plesiosaurs ate everything from mollusks to large fish, to other species of lizards, and from sea creatures to flying creatures. At least that's what the diet menu of one plesiosaur was all about. When examining the fossils, we found the remains of a large ammonite, a fish, and a creature resembling a pterodactyl, a type of pterosaur, in the area where the stomach was supposed to have been. By the way, speaking of flying lizards, it was precisely these pterosaurs that occupied a place in the ecosystem at a time when modern birds did not exist. Among them were the famous pterodactyls, as well as the slightly more minor Rhamphorhynchus. Most were carnivores, feeding on fish, insects, small reptiles, and early mammals. There was also an animal called Archaeopteryx in the late Jurassic. This flying creature, about the size of a crow, caused a sensation among scientists, because it was the earliest creature with feathers, and thus recorded as the ancestor of modern birds, the Archaeopteryx. Today, however, many paleontologists believe that things are not so simple, and that Archaeopteryx is rather a species that failed to evolve and disappeared. In the midst of all this maelstrom of life, small, hair-covered, warm-blooded animals, such as Trinconodon and Juramaya, were almost invisible. They looked more like rats, and were probably small carnivores or lived off carcasses. Yes, as you might guess, they are mammals. But at that time, they were still a bit of an oddity in evolution. It was during this Jurassic period that the present-day placentarians, marsupials, and monotremes branched off. Living in the shadow of the dinosaurs, they had no way of knowing what fate awaited their descendants tens of millions of years later. Contrary to popular belief, The Jurassic period was not a tropical climate anywhere in the world. Certainly, the habitats of corals, which prefer warmer climates, were much higher than they are today, and even the polar regions were lushly forested. However, scientists have found evidence of severe cold and snowy winters, at least in temperate latitudes. What would you think of the sight of giant dinosaurs stomping through knee-deep snow? End of the period. At the end of the Jurassic period, the climate gradually became colder and more humid. This seems to be related to the continents continuing to break up and the ocean currents changing. And life also gradually changed. Unlike the Triassic period, which ended with the Great Extinction, the Jurassic period was followed by a gradual transition to the Cretaceous period. The Cretaceous period is the period when dinosaurs were at their very peak and ended with their demise. But we will leave this story for another time. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give us a high rating, set your notification for new videos, and share our videos on your social networking sites. Maybe some other people will be interested in this video. That's it, dear friends. We'll say goodbye for a while, but we'll see you again. Farewell.